All right. And we are alive. So we have Thomas and Janelle are playing darts in their garage using the board from the point for each region shown below. The radius of the circle of the outside is 10 inches. So 10 inches from here to here, 10 inches. And each circle that's on the inside is 2 inches less. So basically we're looking at, this is 8 inches, this is 6 inches, okay, and so forth. Thomas has only one dart left to throw, and he needs at least 30 points to win the game. Assume that his dart hits at a random point within a single region on the board. What is the percent chance that Thomas will win the game? So he needs at least 30 points. So out of our total, so kind of probability here, we want our desired outcome divided by the total outcome. All right, what does that look like? Well, the desired outcome is 30. So anything within here. So what is that area going to be? That's going to be pi times radius squared. All right, divided by the total, which is the 10-inch dartboard. All right, so if I go ahead and I can just cancel out those pi's right there. If I just go ahead and take my calculator here and I do 6 squared divided by, I'm going to do 36. Do I even have to do that in my calculator? Absolutely not. I get 0.36, which is 36%. All right, let's take a look at my next one. When asked his age, the algebra teacher said, if you square my age, then subtract 23 times my age, the result is 50. How old is he? This one is actually a quadratic problem. It says, if you square my age, so it's age squared, subtract 23 times my age, the result is 50. What I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract that 50, all right, and I'm going to get something that looks like this. You've seen this before. This is a simple quadratic equation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and factor this. All right, use zero product property right here. So I go, what two numbers multiply to negative 50, add to negative 23? I'm going to get negative 25 and plus 2. Now I go ahead and get an answer of positive 25 or negative 2. So 25 is my answer, G. All right. The distance d an accelerating object travels in t seconds can be modeled by the equation d equals 1/2 at squared, where a is the acceleration rate in meters per second. If a car accelerates from a stop at the rate of 20 meters per second, so I've got my distance is 80 equals, get that right there, 1/2 times my acceleration, just crush that pencil lead, and then times t squared. Go ahead and solve this. So this is going to be 10 right here, so I'm going to divide by 10. So I'm going to divide by 10. So I've got 8 equals t squared. So I get to divide by, square root of t squared, square root of 8. So square root of 9 is 3, square root of 4 is 2. So it's B, somewhere between 2 and 3. Somewhere between 2 and 3. All right, let's take a look at this last one on this page. We've got, which of the following is the set of all real numbers x, such that x plus 3 is greater than x plus 5. So for this one, if I subtract the 3, so I take away the 3, I get x is greater than x plus 2. And if I take away the x, I'm going to get 0 is greater than 2. In what world is 0 ever greater than 2? None. 0 is never greater than 2. So this is the empty set. There is no real solution to that problem. Okay, trying to trick you there, trying to trick you. All right, let's take a look at the next one. We've got some probability. A survey in a study skills class asked 20 students enrolled in a class, how many hours, rounded to the nearest hour, did they study for the test? So this is called it's a bar graph, but not really. It's kind of like a histogram. Okay, so frequency and then hours studied. What fraction of the students responded that they had less than 3 hours? So less than would include 0, 1, and 2. So I've got 6 for 2 hours, I've got 5 for 1 hour, and then I've got 2 for 0 hours, out of a total of 20, all right? So I've got 6 plus 5 is 11, 12, 13, 13 divided by 20 right here, all right? 13 out of 20. 33 is letter D. All right, now let's take a look at number 34. So we got to keep this data up here. The teacher decides to show the data in a circle graph, a pie chart. What should be the measure of the central angle of the sector for 3 hours? So 3 hours has a total of 4 hours, 4 total people in there. All right, so that's 4 out of 20. So that equals 20%. So if we want to put that in a pie chart, right, we got to go ahead and find out what 20% is of 360. All right, if we go ahead and we put that in our calculator, we actually get 72%, 72 degrees. Okay, 72 degrees. So 72 degrees is my answer. 72 degrees. All right, here we go. To the nearest tenth of an hour, what is the average number of hours? So, again, this is my histogram. I got 20 people, and I got to figure out what's my average. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and for the average, all right, there's 2 people who had 0 hours of studying. There are 5 people who had 1 hour of studying. This is called the kind of expected value as well. We have 6 people who did 2 hours of studying, plus 3 people who had 4 hours of studying, plus 2 people who had 4 hours of studying. Oh, I already did that one. No, I'm good. And then plus 1 person who had 5 hours of studying. Okay, then I go ahead and divide that by 20 people. I got 2.1. So my average is 2.1 B. All right, that was a little tricky because we had to use the one graph for all 3 problems. Let's take a look at this one. This one talks about diagonals. Geometry is probably going to be the hardest because it's been a while since you've taken it. So, pentagon has 5 diagonals, is illustrated. How many does the octagon have? So, I'm going to start here, and then we're going to go until we kind of get repeats. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to start here. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's one right there. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I already have one there. 18, 19. I already have one there. 20. Looks like 20 for H. Okay? Basically just a tracing activity, but you have to know what's going on with diagonals. All right, let's take a look at 37. The bottom of the basket of a hot air balloon is parallel to the ground. One taut tether line, 144 feet long, is attached to the center of the bottom of the basket and is anchored in the ground at the angle of 72 degrees, as shown in the figure below. Which of the following expressions gives the distance in feet from the center of the bottom of the basket to the ground? So we've got SOHCAHTOA. Let's go over this. So we've got the sine of the function is the opposite angle over the hypotenuse. All right, remember, the SOHCAHTOA sine is just a ratio of 2 sides, cosine. Okay, so cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. And then we have tangent, which is opposite over adjacent. All right, SOHCAHTOA. So it says we want to find what this is. This is obviously our hypotenuse, so that takes tangent out. All right, so it's either cosine or sine. Since I look at 72, my reference, opposite over hypotenuse, that's going to give me sine. All right, so I have my sine of 72 equals opposite over hypotenuse. So that means if I want to find x, I go ahead and multiply the 144 over, and I get e. All right, 144 times the sine of 72. That's where they're going to try to get you. All right, that's where they're going to try to get you. Now let's take a look at number 38. The coordinates on the end point of GH in the standard xy plane are -8, -3, and 2, 3. What is the x coordinate of the midpoint? All right, so to find the midpoint, all we have to do is just find the average of the x values and the y values. Okay, so find the average between -8 and 2. Well, I add them together. -8 plus 2 is -6. Divide by 2 is -3. That easy. Okay, just find the midpoint. All right, don't make it complicated. All right, moving on. We've got, this is a systems of equation problem. It looks kind of confusing because we got a lot going on. Let 2 plus 3y equals 4 and 5x plus 6x equals 7. What's the value of 8x plus 9y? Well, if I go ahead and I'm going to put 2x plus 3y equals 4 here, then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to multiply this by -2 because I'm going to use elimination. I'm going to eliminate the y's. I'm going to rewrite it. 5x plus 6y equals 7. And then I'm going to get -4x, -6y equals -8. So these cancel. I'm left with x equals -1. Well, if x equals -1, then 2 times -1 plus 3y equals 4. I'm going to go ahead and add the 2 over there. So I'm going to get 3y equals 6. So then my y ends up being 2. So what's 8x plus 9y? Well, x is -1, so it'd be -8 plus 18, e. -8 plus 18 gives me e. All right, let's take a look at number 40. Number 40. All right, unit circle. Are we ready for the unit circle? What are the values between 0 and 2 pi for when the tangent of theta equals -1? Here they're definitely trying to separate the half from the have-nots, the 36s from the 33s. Okay, so here's what we got for a unit circle. A unit circle is just a circle where the radius is 1 unit long. Okay, so this is 1, 0. This right here is 0, 1. This is -1, 0. This right here is 0, -1. Okay, and then so for this unit circle, what we find out is if we lay this radius along the outside edge of this circle, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to end up getting 2 pi radii that go along the outside of that circle. Okay, so that right there means that 2 pi radians is going to fill up this whole circle. So a radian is the angle measure that occurs when I lay 1 radii along the arc of the circle. So what I do is I'm going to go ahead and say, okay, if this is 2 pi all the way around, then halfway around is just pi. And then if halfway around is pi, then half of that is pi over 2. All right? So if this is 0, so it's 2 pi, it's also 0. 0, 1 pi over 2, 2 pi over 2. This is right here, it's going to be 3 pi over 2, right? And then 4 pi over 2 is going to be 2 pi. Now, because I haven't lost anybody yet, we can actually keep going. So then we've got Since this is 0 to pi over 2, half of that is pi over 4, right? So we can go 1 pi over 4, 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2. Then this would right here would be 3 pi over 4. 4 pi over 4, and then this right here is going to be 5 pi over 4. 6 pi over 4, which is 3 pi over 2. And then this right here is going to be 7 pi over 4. And then 8 pi over 4 is going to give me 2 pi. Right? So we are going through the unit circle. Now, there's also, we can divide that into a 30-degree angle. So a 30-degree angle, how many times does a 30-degree angle go into 180 degrees? Right? The answer is 6. Right? So if 30 degrees goes into 180 6 times, how many times does, or what do I write for my fraction for this 30-degree angle in radians? So instead of 30 over 180, it would just be 1 over 6 pi. So this is going to be pi over 6. So this would be 30. This would be 60, and this would be 90. So it would be 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, right? So that would be pi over 3. 1 pi over 6, 2 pi over 6, 3 pi over 6. This would be 4 pi over 6, or 2 pi over 3. And this would be 5 pi over 6, 6 pi over 6, 7 pi over 6, 8 pi over 6, or 4 pi over 3, 9 pi over 6, 10 pi over 6, we're going to call that 5 pi over 3, okay? And then this is 11 pi over 6, and then of course, 12 pi over 6 would be 2 pi. So from here, we got to go ahead and find when the tangent of theta is -1. So to figure this out, we got to know that the tangent equals the sine over the cosine. All right. Well, the sine of theta and the cosine of theta need to be the same for this to be -1. Okay, for that to be -1. The only place where they're the same are over here at the pi's over 4. So this is square root of 2 over 2, square root of 2 over 2 over 2. Square root of 2 over 2. This is the cosine, and this is the sine value. They are in alphabetical order, cosine, sine, x, y. So this one right here would be a negative x value, so it would be negative square root of 2 over 2, comma square root of 2 over 2. All right, this one right here would be double negative. So this would be negative square root of 2 over 2, negative square root of 2 over 2. Then this one would be square root of 2 over 2, and then negative square root of 2 over 2. So if I want to go ahead and I want to find where's the tangent is equal to -1, it's going to be right here and right here. Because when I divide those, I get -1. The answer is 3 pi over 4, 7 pi over 4. Okay, 3 pi over 4, 7 pi over 4. That was a doozy. Okay, but the unit circle is not that hard once you can see the pattern. All right, let's take a look at the next one. For the complex number I. So if you remember, I is simply equal to the square root of -1. Okay, for the complex number I and an integer x, which of the following is a possible value of I to the x? Try to make it be really tough, but not really. So we've got, if I equals the square root of -1, then I squared equals square root of -1 squared, which equals 1. Excuse me, -1. See, that's not on here. Okay, I know my camera's going out of focus. We'll figure that out. I got I cubed. That would equal the square root of -1 squared times the square root of -1, which would be negative square root of -1, which isn't on there. Then I would have I to the 4th, which would be the square root of -1 squared squared. So the square root of -1 squared is -1, and -1 squared is 1. B. That one would be B. All right. So number 41. A little bit of a doozy. You got to know your algebra 2. All right. Last problem here. A can of soda. A can of soda has the shape of the right circular cylinder with an inside height of 6 inches and an inside diameter of 2 inches. All right, so we're talking about pouring soda. So cylinder's height, so pi r squared times h. Think of it too like the area of the base times the height. So if this has a diameter of 2, that means it has a radius of 1. So it'll be 1 squared times pi times the height. All right, so that's just going to be 6 pi. That's just going to be 6 pi. Now, what I'm going to do is, okay, Shaden, you missed the unit circle on this bad boy. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a look at what it would look like if the glass was 3 inches in diameter. We don't know the height, but we do know the volumes are equal. So that means my radius is going to be 1.5 squared times pi times the height, which is 2.25 pi h. So I'm going to set them equal to each other. So I got 6 pi equals 2.25 pi h, so I'm going to go ahead and divide by 2.25 pi. Okay, so I end up getting the height to be, all right, let's take a look. Maybe we don't know what that is. We're going to throw in our calculator. We're going to throw in 6 pi times 6 divided by 2.25. That's going to be 2 and 2/3. I can throw that in a fraction. Okay, 8/3, 2 and 2/3 F. All right. You want more? Come tomorrow, 8:30 p.m. nightly, not last night. I got confirmed strep throat, but you know how that goes. All right. Have a good night, everybody.